Okay, let's do something that I say, or that I said I was not going to do very much of. And what is that? The rock to point. The rock to point stuff. So just taking a rock and making a point out of it. Now, for those of you who do not know why I said that I was not going to do this kind of thing, it's because it wastes a lot of material. Some of you might be saying, what? How can it waste it? You just got two spalls off of it right there. So, what's the matter? Well, I am going to get some spalls, yes. But I'm not looking for spalls. I'm looking to maximize the yield for just one biface. I'm maximizing the yield for one biface out of this, trying to get a biface that is as big as possible from this, for my point. All right, how does that waste material? Well, I'm not trying to maximize the amount of material I get from this spall to make several points. I'm trying to maximize this spall for 1 point. So I don't care about all the other debitage. It can be small and insignificant. But if I was trying to maximize it for as many spalls as possible of a good size, I would go about this a little differently. I'd be more careful. And I wouldn't try to get a big biface out of it. I'd be more concerned with getting several smaller spalls and several smaller bifaces. And if I go for one biface from this, and that one biface breaks, and I don't use any other pieces off of this because it's not big enough for that one biface type that I'm trying to make, the whole thing just goes to waste. Unless someone picks up the flakes and utilizes the flakes, yeah. But that always happens. Always people are picking up the flakes back in the day to be used. That always happens. So you can't really count that. You can't say, well, they're going to use the flakes. Yes, but they always do that. If it was particular to making only large bifaces, yeah, you could say that, okay, you got a good use out of it because it's only pertaining to the large bifaces. But no, you utilize the flakes regardless of the size of the objective. Yeah. So that doesn't count. That's why I say it's wasteful. And also, I don't have very many rocks left that can be used for the videos with the subject matter rock to point. I'm running out of these types of rocks. I've got a lot of spalls and flakes. Yeah. And I certainly am running very low on quality stone for this type of video. And I run out very fast because I won't show if I won't show you if I ruin it. It doesn't make for good content if I ruin it right away, or if the stone has a crack in it and I can't make a large biface. I won't show it. I know some of you don't like it when I delete stuff, but I deleted like 3 videos last week. Yep. This is raw stone, by the way. But yeah, I deleted like 3 videos last week because the stone was just really, really bad. And there were a lot of cracks. I wasn't really feeling my best. you know, it's a season for colds or something. I think I just got over another cold. A mild one this time. I think it might have been the flu last time. I had a cough for like 2 weeks. Just a dry cough. Just a nagging dry cough. Alright. This time it was just runny nose and sore throat and stuff. Fatigue, of course. Just general irritability. That sort of thing this time. So, what is this going to be? I don't know. Don't know yet. I'd rather work this heat treated because it's got some concrete. I'm not quite sure what temperature it would heat at. It's kind of an unusual color and consistency. It feels like it'll nap fine just in a raw state, so that's what I'm going to do. It'll nap just fine in a raw state. I'm hoping. So I'm kind of skinning off the cortex. Those are cortical flakes over there. And we'll see what the middle looks like. A lot of times the middle is the worst part. And those are the best ones over there. As far as nappability goes. These flakes near the cortex, in case you don't know, many times they are the best quality in terms of nappability. And if you don't know how to judge nappability, you've got, you know, you're still new. That's a sign that you're still new. If you don't know what nappability is, it's perfectly fine. We don't know what it is when we, you know, everyone goes through that when we first start. We don't know what is good to nap and what isn't. You might think you have stone that's good to nap, and then I'll send you something that's good, and you'll say, wait a minute, this is night and day compared to what I got. What I got is night, and what you got is day. I can't do anything with what I got. Yeah, I know. I know you can't do anything with what you got. That's why you can't do anything with it. Because it's not good to nap. It's not you. In many cases, it's not the napper. In many cases. Not all cases, but in many cases. It's not the napper that's messed up. It's the stone. Yeah. Now, a lot of new guys, they know that right away. Within 5 minutes, they understand that it's not them necessarily, it's the stone. So what they go and do is buy the best stone they can and start napping on it right away. And then they go, well, I got the best stone, and if you say it's not the napper, why am I still not able to do anything? I got the best stone, and all I end up with is a little almond. And just about the same size as an almond too. You know? A little 1 inch by 3/4 inch wide by 3/4 inch thick. And I start out with something like this, you know, 4 inches long. Let's see, or 3 inches. Yeah, this one's 4 3/8. They ended up with a little 1 inch by 3/4 by 3/4. Excellent material stuff. Then they asked me, what went wrong? It's because you're new, okay? I didn't say that the stone will make you good. I just said it's not the stone. Many times it's not you, it's the stone. If the stone is not any good, it doesn't matter how good you are, it's going to look like crud. Especially if you're new. But if you're new, you won't make anything look good. Sorry to say. Sorry. You'll have to go through that stage where everything you make looks like looks like someone explained it to you like you were 5. Explained how to nap like you were 5. It looks like you made it after an explanation designed for a 5-year-old, because that's what you wanted. A lot of people say, explain the Flintknapping to me like I'm 5, because I'm missing something. Missing something. What am I missing? Must be something very simple. Oh, it is. It's called practice. You're missing the practice part. Yeah, that's what you're missing. Simple. You're missing the experience. I can explain it to you like you're 5, but you're going to end up with a point that looks like a 5-year-old made it, because it'll be too simple. The explanation will be way too simple. And the part you're missing is not in the explanation. The part you're missing is the practice. You got it. You understand it. You're smart. You're clever. You understand it. The reason why you're not getting it is because of the practice. Yeah. And the bad stone that a lot of you start out with. Oh, yeah. And you don't know how to judge what's good and what's bad. So you're kind of in a catch-22 almost. Not in a good situation. The new nappers are never in a good situation. Just so you know. I was just looking at a post the other day, I think it was on Instagram, where the guy was saying, sometimes when you have a bad situation, you end up solving that bad situation with a solution that helps you a lot more than the solution that would have helped you if you were not in a bad situation and you came up with a different solution, right? So for example, I just saw a video of cats jumping over tape. Some guy would put tape on the bottom of the door and they would jump over. Across the door, an open door, he puts a band of tape, kind of like a fence between the two rooms, but he used the door. And he put a tape across the open door and taped it to the sides on the trim. Anyway, just so you know. And the cats would jump over that tape. Well, he put another strip of tape higher. They would jump over it higher. He'd put another strip of tape, and he just kind of went up and up and up and up, higher and higher. And the cats would continue to jump over until they got so high that they went, wait a second, I can't jump it. So what do? What do the cats do? They started chewing on the bottom tapes and ripping the bottom tape and just passing under the tape. They would just rip off one of the bottom tapes and go through. So you would think, that would have been a better solution right from the start. He put a couple strips of tape, so instead of jumping over, they could have just bit the tape and then went through. So the fact that the tape was higher made them come up with a solution that was better than when the tape was lower. Overall, the better solution is just to bite the tape and get it out of the way. Right? That's the idea behind that particular scenario. He used an example that wasn't as good as the cats, and I objected to his example. But yeah, if you have a bad situation, the solution is usually pretty good if you can come up with one. But here's the problem. It depends on how you define bad situation. For me, a bad situation is one that prevents you from coming up with a solution, a good solution. The bad situation prevents the good solutions. It doesn't help you to create a better one. A bad situation prevents you coming up with a good solution. Right? So instead of tape go across a door, if you put electrical wiring with a current through it, that would prevent the cats from chewing the wire. So they couldn't come up with that better solution. That's a bad situation. So in order to get past the wire, instead of jumping it, if the wire's too high, there's no solution for that. No immediate one anyway. Unless they find the circuit breaker box and magically turn the breaker off. They would have to just find another way to get in and out of that room. Maybe chew a hole in the wall. So the point is, what is the moral to the story? New nappers are in a situation where they get into a bad situation if the stone they're using is not good. And when they start asking questions on how to do something, and the answers they're getting are actually preventing them from moving on. It prevents them from getting into a good situation. A lot of times, when they ask when they're brand new, explain it to me like I'm 5 so I can go and do it. Well, you're creating for yourself a bad situation because the advice you're going to get is going to prevent you from getting to where you want to go. It's a preventative thing. You're asking for something that's going to prevent you from getting where you want to go, getting to where you want to go. You're going to have to completely ignore that advice. If you're getting some advice like you were 5, chances are you're going to have to ignore that to move on. Maybe it'll apply later, but not in the beginning, because what you're missing is the practice. That's what you're missing. Some guys, they're just not hitting the rock hard enough. It doesn't do you any good to learn technique or for me to explain to you my strategies or my mindset or my thought process if you're not hitting the rock hard enough. Doesn't do you any good. These solutions that you think you are going to learn are not going to work because you're not hitting the rock hard enough, or you're hitting the rock too hard. How do you know if you're not hitting the rock hard enough or if you're hitting the rock too hard? How do you know? The only way to know is just with practice. Keep doing it over and over again, expecting different results. And when you get different results, then you go, oh, okay. Yeah. I get it now. You'll say, okay, after lots of practice doing the same thing and failing over and over again, I finally get good results. Okay, now I get it. Yeah, and now you understand that the definition of insanity, the mainstream definition of insanity, is not correct. Because a lot of people will say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. People will tell you that's insane. That's going to prevent you from getting to where you want to go. That's bad advice. That's a bad situation. Because if you listen to that advice, you're not going to sit there and try to do the same thing over and over and over again. You're going to be thinking, well, there's something else that I'm missing. What is it? I don't want to be doing the same thing over and over and over and over. It must be something I'm doing wrong. No. And maybe you're doing everything right, but you just need more practice. And a lot of times it's not a maybe. That's it. That's the thing. And you might say, well, okay, practice, practice, practice. Isn't that the 5-year-old explanation then? Tell me what I need to know like I'm 5 years old. And all you need to do is say, just practice, practice, practice. Yeah, you can say that. You don't want to be wrong by saying, I could have said that. Just practice, practice, practice. But you can't just practice blindly. That's the catch, too. That's the catch. Can't just practice blindly. Yeah, you got to practice. But what are you going to practice? That's why I'm showing you these videos. So you know what to practice. You know, you got to swing the billet this way. Got to hold the workpiece this way. You got to use stone like this. You got to, get accustomed to working freehand without a pad. I don't use pads in case you didn't notice. If you want to nap the way I nap, and do it over and over and over again until you get good at it. But, monkey see, monkey do. Do it this way over and over again, getting no results. Keep doing it even though you don't get results until you do get something different. And I got to do the same thing too. Sometimes I don't get good results. I got to do it over and over again until I get good at it. But I know from experience that I just need to continue doing it like this long enough, and eventually I'll get the hang of it. This stone is not that easy to nap, and I'm reaching the end of my ability to thin it with direct percussion. In case you're new, at this stage I usually switch over to indirect percussion. Once I start to hit that wall where I can't seem to thin it any further, I switch over to indirect percussion. I could have switched earlier. I could also wait and switch later. I don't have to switch just quite yet. I can try, over and over again until I get different results, and keep going with direct percussion, and I can probably get better at it, but it may cost me a lot of material that I don't feel like losing. I could break this in half because I'm needing to really hit it hard in very strategic areas. But I might miss because I'm not as accurate with direct percussion as I am with indirect percussion. I might hit it too high up. I might hit it in a way that's too inward. It'll crush it if you hit inward too much. I might not see a defect somewhere on it, and hit it in a place that will cause that crack or defect to break the whole thing. The defect doesn't have to be right where you are hitting in order to crack it. You could have a defect in the stone somewhere where it's a natural crack somewhere on this side. You hit on this side, it'll pop off. This end will pop off right at that natural crack, for example. Okay. Anyway, I just needed something to talk about while I was doing this. Because believe it or not, this process is best done with the aid of your subconscious. It's best done with the aid of your subconscious instead of trying to figure it out with your conscious mind every time. This is a sport. People who are into sports, I like sports. I don't watch sports, but I like it. They know that once you are doing things successfully with your subconscious, you're kind of in tune with your mind. Everything working in harmony. Your subconscious is on the same sheet of music as your conscious mind. Everything's working in harmony. And you can achieve amazing results that way. Oh yes. So when I talk over and find something to distract myself with, my subconscious has to take over because my conscious mind is trying to form these thoughts. So my subconscious is taking over many of these tasks, which is good because it has good muscle memory. The subconscious has good memory for certain things. It doesn't understand everything, so it doesn't control everything, but it does have a good understanding of muscle memory. And it does know when to be careful because you're getting it sends a signal. It makes you start to sweat. It makes you feel anxious. It makes you feel uncomfortable in this particular situation. And it'll tell your conscious mind, okay, wait a second. This is when I need to be more careful. Even though it might look easy, your subconscious mind is telling you with some feedback that, wait a second, these platforms are not really doing the job. It doesn't feel right. And it's sending you signals and making you sweat. And you're going, okay, fine. Let's see what I can do here. What is it that's making me sweat? What is it exactly that is making me feel anxious about this? Anxious and nervous about this. And you look and okay, I know why. In this case, it's starting to make me sweat because I'm not used to this material, for one, and I don't know how hard I need to hit it. Number two, if I hit it too hard, I can snap the whole tip off. I have trouble with tips on most points. So it's starting to make me nervous. If I hit too hard, that point's going to snap right off, or I'm going to cut the whole thing in half accidentally. So I got to focus. And make sure I don't focus too much, because then I get too particular and nothing works. If you're too particular, it doesn't work. Because you're thinking about too many details. It's not that complicated. There's all kinds of different things involved, yes, but it's not really that complicated in the act of hitting to get that flake removed. There's all these options, yes, but the actual act of hitting to remove a flake is not really that complicated. All kinds of things can happen and all kinds of things can affect each strike, yes, but you don't need to worry about those variables. Don't really need to worry too much about those variables. One reason is, even if you know all the variables, it's very difficult to eliminate luck. Like there's a piece of inconsistent material there. I don't know how much luck I'm going to need to get through that. So I'm just going to wing it. I'm just going to go for it. with just the typical strike with maybe a little more force to get through there, but you know, I don't know. I don't know what I need to get through that. Maybe that's not that inconsistent. Maybe that just looks that way. I don't know. But I got to focus on it once it happens and before it happens, so that I know, okay, next time I see that, that wasn't too bad. That's not concrete. That's just a weird thing. It flaked right through there pretty easily. Okay. But I don't see another one like that, so that's probably just a fluke. That it looks different, but it didn't nap different. Yeah. It's not that complicated. It's just a false alarm type of thing. I thought that might be a problem. Anyway, what am I gonna make? What am I gonna make with this? I'm gonna do a video on sharpening points. I'm gonna show you how to sharpen this, right? I always do. At the end of all my videos, I sharpen everything. But I don't go specifically into... This video is specifically for sharpening. I think I do have some sharpening videos, but I can't remember. I was thinking to myself earlier, did I actually make a sharpening video specifically just sharpening? That's it. You just start sharpening and you end the sharpening, and it's like a 7-minute video. I don't know if I've done one like that, where it's just sharpening and I just say, okay, I got a video on sharpening, go to it. I probably had to make 3 or 4 different sharpening videos. One for raw stone, one for heat treat stone, one for obsidian, and one for, I don't know, miscellaneous crud. Something like that. And you don't sharpen everything in the same way. And I might have to do subsets of that sharpening, because there are at least 3 different techniques for sharpening an edge according to the way they used to do it. If you look at artifacts, they're sharpened in different ways. But I should just do one video just on the basics of sharpening. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll do that this week probably, if I remember. I get ADD, so my remembering is intermittent. Sometimes I remember good, sometimes I don't remember good. Sometimes I start thinking about other things and I totally forgot. Like I'll go for like a month thinking about other things, and I look back on this video and I remember, wait a second, I talked about a sharpening video and never did it. Yeah, it happens to me. Oh yes. ADD. And that doesn't stand for a-hole dipsy doodle dummy. I don't want to swear too much on this channel, because I know I get younger viewers, even though it's like 1% of my viewers are the ones that actually care about profanity. 1% probably. I still try not to use it. Anyway. What am I doing now? I'm regularizing. For those of you who do not know what that is, I'm just making it look a little flatter and smoother and less lumpy and less wavy. Yeah, trust me, it'll get better in a second here. I got to remove lumpy spots first and try not to do that. Take off too much on the edge. Now I'm getting to the point where my indirect percussion is reaching its limit of capability. Is that even possible, some of you might ask? How can it be even possible for indirect percussion to lose its effectiveness? Are you starting to sweat again? Yes, I'm starting to sweat again. I don't know if I'll be able to thin the center of that with indirect percussion anymore. I may have to just leave it. I gotta get rid of that bump there, right? If I really want to get it thin. This is my maximum diameter foreshaft thing. This will fit in there. I don't need to thin it anymore for the maximum diameter. That's just arbitrary, right? It just looks like the fattest, the fattest foreshaft that I feel comfortable with. What is the measurement, you might ask? Okay, here we go. For you guys who might ask, the might askers, it's like, what is that, 5/8? Yeah, 5/8 diameter. And the width of that notch is like 3/8. Okay? So you got like 1/8 on each side. That's like the biggest for a foreshaft for an atlatl dart that I feel comfortable with. Okay? Now, in the archaeological record, I think there are bigger ones than that. I think I've seen at least one that's bigger than that. But that's it. Most of them are smaller than that. Most atlatl dart foreshafts that I've seen are smaller than this, but bigger than arrow foreshafts. Yep. So this will fit in that big atlatl dart foreshaft. I just need to base it with something, put a base on it. I don't need to thin it anymore. That's where that was going. That's the moral of that story. I really don't need to thin it anymore in order for it to be effective as an atlatl dart point, or to match the archaeological record, or to conduct tests. I don't need to thin it anymore. It's within range. But for the people who get sick, like physically nauseous and physically itchy, oh yes, they get itchy. You get that back scratcher out and start getting that spot. Oh man, it's still too thick. It's making me itch. Yeah, give me that back scratcher. I can't stand it. It's still too thick in the middle. So for those guys, I'm going to thin it down more. Because if I don't thin it, there's no way to get that itch scratched. And I don't want you to suffer. Seriously, I don't. Nope. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to try to scratch that itch on this side. Did it get it? I still can't reach it. I still can't reach that itchy spot. Yeah. I'm going to have to really start digging into it. I have to start doing some stretching exercises so I can get in there. Yeah, I gotta modify the edge a little bit more so I can get in there. I tried the far away strike. It didn't work, so I gotta get closer. Then I gotta beef up the edge more, which means I gotta lose width. Which means I gotta pay the price for really trying to get that itch scratched. Yeah. Let me see. The only good opportunity is right off of this edge into this area, with a strike in this way. Hopefully that flake will fan out and catch that. If not, I'm in deep troubles. I gotta prepare the edge a little bit better, which means it's gonna have to come back a little bit more. All you can do is reduce, and remove. I wish I could add more mass to that edge, but no, I gotta remove edge in order to make it closer and thicker. That was just an opportunistic thing. I said, wait a second, I can take off that lump. There you go. That was opportunistic. That's another aspect of my style. Opportunistic. In case you don't know. I don't use pads most of the time. I can use them. I use a lot of indirect percussion because I came up with this behind the knee thing. And I talk a lot. I talk a lot of smack. Yeah. All right. I'm grinding the crap out of this. I hope that works. I hope it works. I can't think about it too much. I usually ask, did it do it? Let's see. All right. So it partially did it. Okay, let's look at it. See how the flake fans out? Fans out that way and fans out this way. Now this fan petered out. It wimped out on me, and it didn't go all the way. It's supposed to go like this side. You know what I'm saying? This side was good, but this side did not behave. Now there are various reasons why it may not have behaved, or it didn't behave. Could be that it's getting tougher right there as it approaches that patch of concrete, which that is. It's concretey. Or I struck too hard this way and not enough that way. That's possible. It's also that the platform is tilted. Instead of being in line with the center line, it's tilted like this. So I had to hit it kind of tilted, which means that this side got favored more than that side with the depth of the shock wave. All right, because if the platform's tilted like this, shock wave is going to go into this side deeper. See it? Because it's up higher. This side of the rod is up higher, is deeper into the stone. You can kind of imagine that, right? So it kind of did work a little bit. Now, how do I clear that off? Well, just another flake, of course, right? From the other side. But I have concrete right where it would be nice to be able to start a flake going in that direction, so I can't do it. I could do it from here, but I'm going to shoot a far distance. Now, the normal distance on shooting a flake, if you look at the normal distance on some of these, what is it? That's like 1 inch. That's 1 inch. Let's see how far this one is. Can I strike here and maybe get there? Let's see. Is it 1 inch or less? No, it's more than 1 inch. So that means I'll probably make an island. You don't do what you are not able to do anywhere else. All these other flakes are like an inch tops. Right? If I try to shoot a flake more than 1 inch long, I'm asking for trouble. So I look for a place where 1 inch would cover all the way to the end of that defect. And be right there. I could shoot a flake from right here and probably get that. But that means I'm right at the bottom of this thing, right in the base area. If I hit really hard right here, guess what could happen? Snap right in the middle. So there's no real good place to shoot a flake, right? So when that happens, I go like this. I take out my cheater and I push on the step to see if I can do something just by pressure. Push on the front of the step fracture. Voila. Now let's see. Oh, it's almost I can almost get it, right? But you know what's going to happen if I shoot a flake? It's going to stop at the 1 inch mark, and you're going to have a little bridge in between, or a little place where it didn't continue, and you got a step on this side and a step on the other side, and a little bit of rock in between. That's what's going to happen. Almost guaranteed. Yep. So we're going to figure out what to do later. I'm gonna move on. I'm not going to do that yet. If I lose a lot of mass off of this side, it gets closer to that step fracture, I might take a shot. Okay? If I don't lose any mass off of this side, I'm just going to leave it in. How's that? Yeah, you can leave it in. That solves the problem. Easy peasy. Leave it in. Why mess with it? You don't have to. Nobody says you have to get that out. Well, you might say, well, what about the itchy guys and the guys that get sick to their stomach? What about them? Yeah. They say I need to get that out of there, yeah. They're not wrong, but it's up to me. I'm not wrong if I say I'm just going to leave it. Yeah. What if I say I like it? I like that. Because it makes it look real. Real ones have that in there. Oh, yes. Real ones have step fractures and stuff. They have these in there on real ones. You didn't know that? Now you know. Some of you might say, well, I don't want it to look like a real one. I want it to look better. Better than the real ones. Yeah. I learned the old ways by making them better than the real ones. That's how I learned the old ways. The old ways. The OLDWAYS. I learned the old ways by doing it better than they used to do it. Yeah. That's what some people say. Or they might not say it, right, because it sounds too stupid, but they believe it without saying it. And it comes out in their napping. You know, they'll make something from the archaeological record, but they won't make the same mistakes that the original nappers made. And they'll say, see, I'm showing you how to do it. I'm showing you how to make this particular style. But they're skipping all the ways that were mistakes that they used to make on these. So how in the world are they showing you the old ways if they skip over all that stuff? How are they showing you the old ways if you're going to make it better than they made them? I don't know. I don't know. Someone answer me that. Someone riddle me that one, Batman. I still can't figure out why people still act that way. I cannot figure it out. But they do. And I'm hitting directly on the base, right? Yeah, I'm taking some risks here. But I don't think they're big risks because I'm getting used to the material. But it is still some risks. And I'll probably end up with a little island there. It didn't go far enough. It stopped on that concrete. Yeah. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to leave it. So some of you might ask, okay, Smarty Pants, what are some of the mistakes they used to make on these? Huh? What are some of the mistakes they used to make on these, huh? What are they? Riddle me that one. Yeah. You You're not going to like the answers I give you. That's why I don't tell you. You might say, yeah, try me. Yeah, sure, just try me. Yeah. I can handle anything. I can handle anything, you might say. Yeah, you're not going to surprise me or get me all in a... Get my panties all in a wad if you tell me what mistakes that I used to make. Just tell me. Okay. Overshots. Then you'll say, wait a second. I told you, you're not going to like it. Overshots are mistakes that they used to make. Yeah. You can put in the overshots. You can make the overshot flakes. You can do the overshots to make it look like they used to make it look like back in the day. You can certainly do that. But if you look at it from the perspective that it's supposed to be that way, like they were supposed to do the overshots to make it, no. These are mistakes from thinning. When they try to thin these points, they're hitting a little too hard sometimes and overshooting. Yeah, it's a mistake. Yeah, it shows up. Yeah, it looks like they did it on purpose. But you've got to do some napping to understand that in many cases, in fact, with me, in most cases, if I get an overshot, I'm not heading toward where I want to go because it removes way too much of the edge, and now I've got less to work with. So yeah, I can show you how to put overshots in there. And that's how they used to do it. But I'm going to come at it from the perspective that it's actually a mistake and it's something to avoid. Because I think that they have tried to avoid those back in the day. I don't think they tried to actually achieve them. It was something to avoid. But yeah, you're going to get them because of the thinning. The act of thinning causes you to take risks that sometimes lead to mistakes, like overshots. Okay. So you might say, okay, that was easy. What else? That was a low-hanging fruit, dude. I mean, we all know that. What other mistakes that they used to make that we need to know so that we can start making them like they used to make them? What other mistakes are you talking about? Well, sometimes they used to put furrows or scoop outs that are too extreme. Like, see that scoop out right there? That's pretty common. That's a mistake that happens on a lot of the artifacts. Scoop out way too much, but you leave it in. You don't even bother with the high spot next to it. You just kind of leave the scoop out in there. Now, a modern napper will want to create a completely smooth, even contour, but on real artifacts, they left the scoop outs in many cases. They just left it there, and they wouldn't thin out the other areas to match, or to not to match, but to make it more even with it. Sometimes I do that. If I think I can't do anything else, if I can't thin it down, I'll just leave it this way. And it leads sometimes to the edge not being straight. That's another thing that they used to do back in the day. They didn't have perfectly straight edges in many cases. Some cases, yeah, the edges are perfectly straight. But in many cases, especially with archaic points, between Paleo and late prehistoric, there's an archaic period. It's a huge, long period where they used to have wavy edges on these blades. They were not straight, completely straight. And it's not because of lack of skill. A lot of times it's because of expediency. They were just making a lot of these. They didn't have time to be messing with each one individually. Try to make them perfect. for whatever reason, they were leaving some of these defects in. And if you don't leave them in, you're not doing it the way they used to do it. Now, we don't know the reason, we're just speculating. But they're in there. So, you gotta leave them in there in some cases if you want them to look real. Yeah. I'm gonna try to take off of that mask there, just so I can help you guys scratch that itch. For those of you who get itchy, alright? Okay. Alright, did it do it? It's a small, tiny platform. It did it. Do real artifacts have this look? Yes, they do. In many cases, it's a little bitty platform removed and a big old flake. That's why I use indirect percussion. Because if you look on real artifacts, you'll see small platforms with big flakes on tough raw material. Can I do this with a piece of antler? Yes, I can. It requires a tough piece of antler in perfect condition, you know, sharpened down to that size of a round point on it, or maybe a little bit like this, but maybe a little more pointed because the steel here acts a little bit different on the edge. There's some complications there. I won't get into that. And the antler might leave a bigger residual or flake scar. But anyway, you can do this with antler on tough stone, but you've got to have a really tough piece of antler and strike it really, really hard. Okay? I don't need to work as hard with steel because it'll just hammer right through this raw stuff. Now, if back in the day they couldn't do it with antler, they would heat treat this stuff. And then they could do the same thing. Small platform, big flake. And sometimes they would overshoot it because it requires an extremely hard hit. Alrighty? You got it? Am I always right? In my mind I am, but no, I'm not always right. I could be missing something. Let's see. Can I get that peak right there? Can I eliminate that peak? Let's see. Is it an inch away or less? Oh, it's right on the edge. But yeah, it's less than an inch away, so I have a good chance. For those of you who just tuned in, why is the inch important? Because I measured the other ones. Let's measure this one here. See that? That's almost exactly an inch. It's funny how that works, huh? Yeah. Sometimes it could be inch and an eighth. Sometimes it could be 3/4 of an inch. Depends on your skill. And also it depends on the stone. Don't try to overdo yourself or make miracles once in a while. See what it's doing. You know, get the tape measure out and see what it's doing if you have to. Alright, let's see if it'll do it. It's going to require a hard hit. Alright, did it do it? See, it's a bigger platform this time. I hit it harder. Oh, yes. It did it. And, you know, I risked it because it could have overshot. Did it shoot longer than an inch? Yeah, see? I risked it. I hit it actually harder than the other side. And it left a bigger mark. But yeah, I think I helped the itchy guys scratch that itch on that one. Yes? Hopefully? Yeah. I think so. So what's left? Pressure flaking? Yep. Or I just it's a trade blank right now. It's not quite a preform yet because I haven't really done anything to it to make it look like it's going to be a certain style. So this is a trade blank right now. It's not a preform yet because I don't know what I'm going to do with it. So I would trade it, keep it in my stash of stuff, and trade it. Trade it for some tobacco. Yeah. Why do I think that's funny? Because I like smoking cigars once in a while, right? And once in a while I'll just splurge and buy a bunch of cigars and they'll be sitting there. I won't smoke them all. Back in the day when I had allergy tests, they tested me and I was allergic to tobacco when I was a kid. Almost like I'm allergic to almost everything else too. But anyway, I do get a reaction from tobacco. It makes my my throat swell up and stuff. Not too bad, but it's still there. Anyway, the reason why I laugh about trading this for something like tobacco is because you often trade it for something you're not supposed to get. All right? Yeah. I don't know why as humans we're like that. So back in the day, what would they trade it for that they're not supposed to be getting? Like what? Now that's an interesting question. What was mischievous back in the day? We don't know. I had an email recently asking about phenomenology. Now, I'm not going to say anything in particular. I like getting emails like that because they make me think. I'm not going to go into particulars, right? Because I'm not an expert on phenomenology. But basically, it's a study of the way you experience things. And I was asked if I think it's important in archaeology. Well, yeah, it's important, but unfortunately, we don't think the same way that the ancestors thought. Our brains are different. Not only structurally, but other environmental factors are affecting our brains these days. Like what, you might ask? Like our diet. You know, we're eating a bunch of food that we didn't normally eat back in the day, so it's affecting our brains. That's all I'm going to say about that. Just be aware that we're eating food that we're not adapted to eat in many cases. It's messing with our gut, messing with our brain. For those of you who are internet savvy, you know that by now it's all over the internet. Brain chemicals are produced in the gut. Certain brain chemicals are produced in the gut, and if you don't have a healthy gut, you don't have a healthy brain. Yeah. You didn't know that? You gotta read the internet. You gotta read the whole internet, not just part of it. Yeah. Okay. How do you read the whole internet? Oh, believe me, there are people that read the whole internet. And if you come up with something, you come up with a statement, they'll go, I have not seen support for that or a source for that on the entire internet. And I know there's no source for that statement because I read the whole internet. Yeah, I'm being a little sarcastic, but maybe not. Maybe they have read the whole internet and there's no support for that. Yeah, they might not be wrong. I've known people that can read two different things at the same time. Yeah. How are you able to read two different things at the same time? 2 pages open, they can read both pages at the same time. I mean, not exactly, right? You skip back and forth, but in order, they keep it separate. That means you can go through and read more, twice as much as most people. And they can read something over here while this is searching, And then when it finds it, they can read this over here. And then they go back and forth. This is searching for something else. And they won't get mixed up. I get mixed up. I start getting a headache. I can keep them separate sometimes, depending on how interested I am in the topic. And how much experience I have with the topic. I can sometimes keep it separate, but I cannot keep up with some of these people. And it seems like they have read every single thing on the internet pertaining to a certain topic. Yeah. I know, because I used to bug them. I used to try to get into arguments with people like that. Why? Because you get to know what their techniques are, or what they've been reading and what they do. And I'm amazed sometimes at the amount of information some people have stored in their brain and the capacity to recall it instantly. I wish I had that. I have it only with certain things, and it's funny how the human brain works. You have to be really interested in something in order for it to stick. Yeah. Like, in order for me to continue flint knapping, I really gotta like flint knapping. In order for you to continue flint knapping, you gotta like flint knapping. It's just the way the brain works. If your brain says, I don't like it, you're not gonna do it. And if you, well, that's not true. Sometimes you can force yourself to do it. I know from experience. But it produces weird chemicals in the brain, and so after a while you become kind of kooky. Oh yes. You do something long enough that you don't like doing. Not only do you become a dull person, but some weird things happen. Anyway, you know, like The Shining. You remember the movie The Shining, right? All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. He's sitting there typing his book out in the hotel, but he's being possessed by this spirit, and the spirit doesn't like doing that. No, spirit's not interested in writing a book. He's completely possessed by this spirit, and it doesn't like writing the book, so it just kind of gets really weird. It's based on what actually happens to the human brain. Yeah. All right. Are we getting close? Am I getting close? Yeah, I'm getting close. I just don't know how far to take this. I can get pretty thin with this material. It's not bad at all. As far as nappability goes, I can probably get thinner. Question is, how daring do I want to get with it? How much risk? I do want to get better on this tip. I want to get rid of that steppy area. Voila. There. That's it. Go home now. That's it. You can go home now or get back to your regularly scheduled programming. Watching them ancient mysteries, or your bushcraft, or your farmsteading, homesteading. I like homesteading videos too, so I watch that too. I'm actually watching now more what my viewers watch. I say, wait a second, I'm missing out. I'm trying to do research on what my viewers like to watch, and I'm sitting there, wait a second, I'm missing out on this stuff. I need to watch this stuff. Holy craps, there's a lot of good stuff I've been missing. homesteading stuff. Very popular channels I've never heard anything about. I'm not interested in all of them, but there are some channels that I got exposed to just by doing research on what my guys that watch a channel watch. I say, wait a second, this channel's got like almost 1 million followers or subscribers, and I've never heard of it. And yet it's related to, you know, survival or bushcraft or ancient technologies and stuff like that. How have I not even seen this? Where have I been? Living under a pile of rocks? I guess. I don't know how that happened. Anyway. You guys can go home now because I'm pressure flaking. This is when your eyes glaze over. You know, you go take a break. You say, okay, I gotta go to the bathroom. I know that's what happens when people watch me napping. As soon as I start pressure flaking, they all take off like it was like someone just farted. They vacate politely. Excuse me. It was nice meeting you. I'm glad I got to see you nap. I gotta go. So you guys, I'm pressure flaking. It's time for you to go. Say excuse me. Nature calls, or I forgot. I need to check on the. I gotta check in on the kitchen. I gotta roast in the oven. See you later. Yeah, I know. I know. You guys don't stick around for this. Then you ask me, how do you sharpen the edge? How do you sharpen it? I don't know how to do it. Well, you left to check on the roast. Or you said nature calls and it really didn't. You just went over there to start playing cards with your buddies. Yeah, and you missed the sharpening part. And then you ask me later, how do you sharpen it? Nothing I do works. Oh my goodness. See, when you have kids, you know this kind of stuff too. That's what they do. You know, you tell them a story and before you get to the good part, they already left. Or we already heard this. They don't want to hear the good part. So you guys not sticking around for the sharpening, are you? They left. The guys that left, they don't see this. Because they say, he's pressure flaking, dude. This is what makes me yawn. You know, it's time for bed. Yep. Time for Betty Bite. Or, let's go watch someone else do the bopping. I like to see them do the bop faces with boppers. Let's go switch the channel. Yeah, this guy, he's pressure flaking. Let's go change the channel. Hurry up. Hurry up before I see too much of the sharpening. Yeah. You're missing out. Oh well, what can I do? I can make a video just on sharpening. Because the guys, they can't just fast forward the video to the end where I do all my sharpening. Nope, they didn't think of that. So, I gotta do a video just on sharpening. Yep. It's gonna be pressure flaking, so you gotta take your caffeine, wash your face, or whatever it takes to wake yourself up. Because the sharpening video is gonna be pressure flaking. Oh yes. Do your nature calls before you watch the video. Do your thing before you watch the video, because sharpening is all, well, not all, but mostly pressure flaking. You can sharpen with percussion, especially indirect percussion. You can sharpen just with that. but for the most part, use pressure flakers. Pressure flakers of different types and techniques of different types. This one is the spatula tool technique because I just feel like it. Yeah. It's got little bitty serrations. Not that I put them in on purpose. It just happens to be all kind of wonky that way. How sharp is it? Let's do a test. Do a test, dude. Well, the only tests that I do is cutting meat. But the best test is just to sell it to you and let you test it. Yeah. Because no matter what I do, it's not as good as what you can do for yourself to answer your own questions. Now I'm going to take a little bit more off of this side, I think. Oh no, let me see. I'll leave it like this. I got to figure out what I'm going to do with the notches. Let me think here. It's got to be an interesting point style I can make out of this. I got to symmetritize it. Symmetritize is a Flintknapping term. You didn't know? Now you know. Oh, it's getting late. I could look on the internet. To see what kind of cool points are made from shapes like this. Yeah, dovetail. Yeah, I know. But what else? I haven't made a big sandy in a while. This is Texas Chert. I'm trying to think. Most of these Texas points are wide at the base. I could make a Nolan. Those are really, really easy notches. What's a Nolan? You don't know what a Nolan is? Well, let me think. Let me think if this is appropriate. Did they have rounded bases? Yeah, they kind of did. I don't think it was perfectly flat. Let me think here. See, Nolans are easy because they're just beveled. They just pressure flake in one direction, create the notch, flip it over, and pressure flake in the other direction, and there's their stem. You didn't know that? Now you know. Yeah. I don't got that much time. I mean, I don't want to spend too much time, so I'll just show you. You just pressure flake in one direction the whole time. You might ask, the whole time? Yeah, just one direction the whole time. Just in one direction. Now, is that going to work? I want to get rid of that, so let me, hold on a second. I'm going to pressure flake in the other direction just for a little bit so I can push a big flake into that area, or maybe use indirect percussion to get rid of that. Hold on. I'm going to cheat a little bit, okay? And then I'll go back to the only pressure flaking in one direction. Now, were they all made that way? No. I will explain that a little bit. Hold on. I'm going to get some indirect percussion in here just so I can get rid of that concrete because I don't like it. That's my itch I want to scratch. I don't like it in there. Where's the... Here it is. Hold on. Can I do the beveling with indirect, you might ask? Oh yes. I sure can. Alright, is this risky? It's risky because I'm going to have to hit hard. Hold on. I like it better now. Okay. Alright, so let's get back to our regularly scheduled programming. Bevel it in one direction. Alright. I'm going to switch directions. I was beveling it. Let's see, which way was I beveling? I can't remember. Anyway, maybe I did not switch directions. Just downward pressure. That's how you bevel. Downward. Hardly any inward. Okay. And then same on the other side. It doesn't need to be perfectly symmetrical either. That's what's kind of cool about some of these points. And I probably need to make that notch a little bit bigger. There's a little bit of concrete right there. I don't think Nolan's had sharp barbs, so I took off that little sharpness on that. But you can see how that's developing a bevel, and the same on the other side. Pretty simple. Okay. I think that's sufficient. Although I don't think the Nolans were this pretty as far as the evenness of the notching. They just basically pressured in the stem. Pressure flaked in the stem this way. Now, I don't know if these were knives or projectile points or both. All I know is it's pretty easy to do the stem on these because it's just pressure flaking or indirect percussion or regular percussion in one direction. On either side. Sometimes it's alternating like this. Sometimes they got the bevel on the same side. Okay, so instead of napping downward, flipping it, napping downward, they would nap downward and then turn it like this and nap downward so that you see the bevel on the same side. You'd see that bevel on the same side on some of these. All right. I think some of these had needle tips. Let me take a little bit off the edges here. I'm going to shoot some flakes in this way. Seems a little wide to me from what the pictures I've seen. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to have to try and fix those step fractures now. Yep. Gonna have to. I don't think Nolan's were super thin, but some of them were very well made, so I think I'm still within range. That's what I want. Oh yes. I like those big bold flakes. Okay, so that's it. I'm going to be sharpening this and that's it. So just downward flakes to sharpen it with the spatula tool. And the wider the spatula tool, the more it looks like you used a big wide piece of antler. Because that's what I think they used to sharpen these. Just a regular old piece of antler, wide tip. Nothing special. What would be something special, you might ask? You know, a specially shaped tip, maybe a sharp one, or a piece of bone from the leg of a moose. I don't know. Whatever you think would be special. I don't think they would use anything special on the edges of most of these projectile points or knives. Just simple antler tools that anyone could have available, hanging from their neck as a sharpening tool. Because these things do get dull if you use them. Oh yes. If everybody's using them and you're trying to sharpen them with specialized tools, where's everyone getting these specialized tools from? Not everyone can have the hardest bone in the body of a big bull moose. Or the greatest and toughest antler ever seen on the prairie. Yeah, because those are rare by definition. Anyway, I don't want to get into this too much, but I think some of these had cuneate tips, which means that they ended up in a little sharp point. Exaggerated sharp, pointy point. I don't know. Look up cuneate as far as a leaf form. A lot of these tools are described in the same way that leaves are described. A cuneate leaf means a leaf with a point on the end. Alright, so I'll leave it at that. This is a kind of a steppy area, but it's not a bad step. It's just a little bitty remnant there. It looks pretty bad from this side, but it's not bad. Anyway, that's a Nolan. I might have gone thinner or more narrow, but it fits nicely on the lateral dart point. Plenty of room because I thinned it down, okay? I thinned it down to scratch that itch. I think it worked out alright. It's a raw stone. It's sharp, but I could get it sharper. I just need to thin the edge more. That would require some very careful edge preparation and some indirect percussion flakes. Let's see. Yeah, I've made a 2.5 hour video before, so this is only an hour and a half. Let me just see if I can remove some indirect percussion flakes to thin that area down a little bit. Just so you know what I'm talking about. If I can do it. No, there's no guarantee that I'll be able to get it thinner than it already is. Let's see. Oops. I'm trying to put a little bit of pressure on there before I strike it. Get it seated. Why? Because if it's seated, I can remove the flake a little bit better. What is it? What do I mean by better? It scoops it out a little bit better. I wanted a little bit of a hollow ground effect, if I can do it. So if I add a little bit of pressure beforehand, it creates more of a bulb if I'm lucky. It doesn't always work. That's what I wanted. See, it scoops out quite a bit, and that bulb makes it thin right there. If I get a good bulb on it, it did travel, which is good too, but what I'm looking for is the bulb in the beginning of the flake. That makes the edge really, really thin. I gotta have a good bulb in there. Now, indirect percussion is known for being able to remove flakes without the bulb. So add a little bit of pressure in there inward so that I can create more of a bulb. The inward force is what creates that bulb in most cases. Yeah, I ended up with a step. Oh well. That's what I get for trying to thin the edge down. The thin edges are cool, huh? It's worth it. I'll live with a few step fractures if I can get a real thin edge, because it's sharper. It's sharp compared to how it was. Alright, good. I'm not going to push my luck. That's as good as I'm going to get it. Yeah. Where's that spatula tool? I just had it. Okay. All right. All right, so if there's dull spots, I'm going to look for the dull spots and just push off a flake. The dull spots make it easy to push off a flake. Imagine that. But you can't push off too much in the thin areas because then it becomes thicker again. And you want it to remain thin, so it's a little delicate type of thing to maintain the thinness of the edge while removing the flakes. There is a certain amount of inward force. You got to be very careful that you don't crush it with the inward force. That's why I use a spatula tool, because there's not much in contact with the edge. The less you have in contact with the edge, the less chance of crushing it. That goes for, pointy pressure flakers too. The pointy pressure flaker has very little in contact with the edge, so there's not much chance to crush it. I prefer the spatula tool because it looks more like a big piece of antler did it, which makes it look more like an artifact. At least sometimes it does. But this is only one method of sharpening. There are other methods. This is just my default method because it's easiest. It's kind of a no-brainer. Just push downward and sometimes inward. The more inward you go, the more bulb it takes out. So if you need to take out a bulb, push inward. If you don't, just push downward. I think that's the easiest way to explain it. Come on. Why am I having trouble right there? For some reason, it doesn't want to flake. The flakes don't want to come off. And when that happens, you end up crushing it because you put too much force behind it in the inward way. You get frustrated and you just kind of jam that tool in there, and it compounds the problem. Not only does it not want to flake, but it's not going to flake on. It's not going to flake for you at all if you try to jam it in there. You've got to finesse your way across here to just pick off flakes so you can leave a thin edge on most of this. Some of it, yeah, it's not perfect, but as long as most of the edge has that thinness to it, it's good. Okay. Can I get rid of that? Let's see. For those of you who want to know how to get rid of that, if you don't know already, that little step remnant. Get it really narrow, get it sharp. See, I left that in there. Remember that one? Let's see if I can pop this one out. Come on. I got two ways I can go with this. that was the easy one. There. Yeah, just leave it. Let's see. Oh yes, you can rub it with another flake to get rid of that sharpness, because some of those step fractures are sharp. You want the surface to be kind of smooth because it cuts better that way. So you can take a flake and just run it across and see what happens, and it does feel smoother afterwards. Anyway, semi-translucent. These are all good for heat treat. I don't think I want to work those raw. After this one, it's not bad working it raw, but I think it'll be a lot sweeter as a heat treat, as long as I don't overcook it. This has a tendency to overcook these darker cherts, so I got to be careful. Take it up to 350 first and see what happens. Maybe even 325 and then see what happens. If it naps well at 325, that's it. Okay.